Good morning, Razorback Nation. We are back with our live NCAA baseball selection show special today. Selection show will get started up here at 11 o'clock, and we will be here to react live with all of you guys on that. Obviously, Hogs on the Hill is brought to you by Razor Pigs. Looking good, never felt so fun. Razor Pigs is the Arkansas-born brand, bringing sincere style to the golf course, tailgate, and everywhere in between. From high-quality polos to head-turn hats, they've got what you need to rep the natural state with pride and founded right here at home. And now run by Razorback loving family Razor Pigs. This is where comfort meets cool, so go hog wild and shop Razor Pigs today at razorpigs.us. And our friends over at Scarlet Letter, Arkansas's very own handcrafted spike seltzer. You can check them out today. And if you are in Northwest Arkansas, check out the Core Brewery Tap Room where you can get Scarlet Letter in all of its various flavors. Well, today is the day that we find out where Arkansas is headed for their postseason baseball play, as we kind of talked about it yesterday with Chris on the show for our Razor recap, how they did release the host sites. Arkansas was unfortunately not one of those, so we will be on the road for regional. Now the question is where. They did officially this morning put out the top 4 seeds officially, not in any particular order, but who will be those top 4 seeds, and that is Auburn, Georgia, Georgia Tech, and UCLA.
Yeah, I don't think there's really any surprise behind any of those 4 teams. Now today's the fun part, wherever we get to see where everybody else in the country is going to go.
Yeah, I think the surprising one for me is, I guess I didn't realize how quietly good or decent of a season that Auburn put together, because yeah, I know we lost the series to them, but we took one game from them on the road, and then we beat them in the SEC tournament. But I didn't realize that I guess they'd done enough to get themselves a top 4 seed.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it too. And when going into the SEC tournament, there was a bunch of fans who were saying, "Okay, let's go ahead and lose to Auburn." And honestly, the Auburn game alone is the reason why I'm kind of surprised that we're not a host site, because of how strong their RPI is and all that other good stuff. I figured a conference win over them would have been good enough to solidify us, but hey, we didn't make it. Not the end of the world. At least we get to continue playing baseball, though.
That is true. So I mean, that's the big part of it, is that we're still in it. It's like Chris said, last night, it may be refreshing to go on the road, and then you're going to have some very upset and pissed off Arkansas baseball players that, hopefully will encourage them to take the game to the next level, and, wherever they are headed, will not want to be – that 1 seed will not be happy to see Arkansas in its regional.
For sure, for sure. Hey, real quick, Caleb, if you don't mind. So today, we all know that today is all about selection show and all that other stuff. But there's a bigger thing about today that is the reason why we get a 3-day weekend. Today's Memorial Day. So personally, today isn't just about the sports or the brackets or Razorback stuff. It's also about remembering the brave men and women who laid down their lives defending this country and protecting the freedoms we sometimes take for granted. Every laugh we share, every game we watch, every memory we make with family and friends is possible because somebody is willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for us. Today, there are families with empty chairs at the table, mothers without sons or daughters, children without fathers, husbands and wives carrying the weight of a loss that never truly leaves. And while words could never fully repay the sacrifice, we can make sure that those heroes are never forgotten. So from me, Caleb, everybody else from Hawgs on the Hill, thank you.
100%. Couldn't have said it better, Trae. That is a good point to make sure, it's a great Memorial Day weekend. It's holiday. Everybody likes to enjoy 3 weekend, but, getting to understand what that's really about and why we have that is also important. So great point, Trae. As we get ready to, have that day today. So got the shout out from Transplant Texan here too. Like I said, thanks for focus on the reason that we do have today. So,
yes, sir. And Transplant, I'm gonna say, man, thank you for being one of our most loyal viewers too. You're here every single air, so we appreciate you, man.
I was about saying, if he's not here with us live, he's always leading that replay crew, checking in with us. So, but here we go. The selection show is getting ready to go live, but before they get started here, I know you caught it this morning and kind of hit on it a little bit, but with postseason baseball comes Obviously, as we know, the transfer portal and Arkansas's first player has hit the portal. That's redshirt freshman Tyler Holland, 6'1" and 195 infield player. Hits bats or hits and fields right. He plays short, second, third, all the above. So he is one of the first ones from Arkansas to hit the portal.
Yeah, and going to the bunch of the scrimmages in the early season, watching him play, I thought for sure that he was going to be maybe not a key piece of the team this year, but definitely a valuable asset or role player for maybe next year's team. So losing him really kind of hurts a little bit. But like we said yesterday, 'tis the season. So.
Mm-hmm.
But wherever he goes, though, he's going to be. Hopefully, it's not an SEC team because I truly believe that he's going to make us pay one way or another. Oh man.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. That's why I was looking at just a while ago some projections from Perfect Game, and they still had us. I still like seeing the projections of us headed to Lincoln.
Yeah, and Lincoln, kind of like what Chris said yesterday, and like what you were saying, Lincoln could be a very intriguing matchup for the Razorbacks. There's going to be a bunch of Razorback fans that make the trip, whether it's actual Razorback fans or Nebraska fans that are going to be Razorback fans whenever they're not playing the Razorbacks.
Exactly. Okay, bracket 16 national seeds, 64 teams total. Regionals, 4 teams, double elimination, winners to Super. Super Regionals, a best of 3 series, winners to Men's College World Series. The World Series is a 2 double elimination bracket, 4 teams total, winners to the finals, and the finals is best of 3 for the national title. So nothing really changing there. As we kind of saw, they changed up the women's a little bit to have this type of pod system, but here we go. The Los Angeles Regional, UCLA is that number 1 overall seed. There were some question marks like Chris mentioned yesterday. Did Georgia do enough to get the number 1 overall seed? The answer is no. So UCLA is that number 1 overall seed with a record of 51-6. Headed to Los Angeles, that will take on UCLA in that first game is St. Mary's, 34-25, the WCC champions. Also in that regional, you have the Cal Poly Mustangs. So not a huge travel for Cal Poly as they are still out there on the coast. And rounding out the Los Angeles Regional is Virginia Tech at 30-24 on the season.
Yep, and this is going to be it. It's not going to be. I expect UCLA to run through.
100%.
This regional. I don't really see Virginia Tech being much of a threat to UCLA, really any other teams in that regional. But they're also the number 1 team with the best player in the country on their roster as well. So it's going to be kind of hard. But next we have the Atlanta Regional with Georgia Tech being the host site.
Okay, so Georgia's still not up there yet. Georgia Tech, yes, the number 2 overall regional host. They are 48-9 on the season. Headed to Atlanta is UIC, 27-27 and 1 on the season. The UIC Flames. Not gonna lie, I don't know where that's at. So,
well, I don't also understand how you get a tie either.
Right. Also in that Georgia Tech regional, the Citadel at 35-24, rounding out Oklahoma 32-21. So Oklahoma is headed to Atlanta.
Yep, and the same thing. Georgia Tech, obviously, again, they're the 2 seed, so they're the best, second best team in the country. The only threat to them could be Oklahoma.
Yeah. I mean, Oklahoma's the 2 seed in that bracket. It's like Chris was talking about. You're going to see probably a lot of SEC teams. If they're not hosting, they're going to be 2 seeds somewhere. Or, you have teams like Kentucky that are going to be the last 4 in and maybe get an opportunity to go play spoiler somewhere.
Yeah. All right, now we got Georgia as a 3 seed, so they did get to host, which isn't a shocker to anybody.
Right. Yeah. The Athens Regional, Georgia 46-12 on the season, as we know, won the SEC tournament championship yesterday over Arkansas. So, they are a host site. First team in the Athens Regional, Long Island 30-20. So the Long Island Sharks.
That's not too far of a trip, so it's not going to be too bad for them.
So Long Island is that 4 seed. Coming in at the 3 seed is Liberty at 41-19 on the season. And rounding out the Athens Regional as the 2 seed, Boston College at 36-21 on the season.
That's going to be, again, a pretty solid regional. Georgia's definitely beatable. I mean, unless if you're Arkansas.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to, do any of these teams have enough pitching that can go against this machine that is Georgia, that just consistently, puts the ball in play and puts it over the fence easily.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that's what Georgia's got going for them this year. They can hit, they can field, and they can pitch.
And that's what, and that's what, like Chris was saying yesterday too, is, they finally got the pitching to go along with the hitting that they've had over the past couple of seasons. Well, now they got the pitching to go with that.
Yeah, but it looks like your number 4 overall seed is going to be Auburn.
I'm still shocked. That's still surprising to me.
Yeah.
Auburn, yes, your 4th overall national seed, hosting. The first team headed to Auburn,
the Milwaukee Panthers.
25-31, conference champion winners, getting that bid in.
Okay, then
So
looks
that's your 4 seed.
Yeah, and your 3 seed is going to be NC State.
32-22 on the season.
Of course.
Rounding out, UCF 31-21. Of course, the Central Florida team celebrating from the pool.
That's what I said, of course. You know what? If you're in Central Florida, though, on a day like that, it looks like it's a very nice day, so I don't blame them.
I was about to say, take advantage of that.
But yeah, Auburn finished 38-19, 17-13 in the NCAA or SEC. And then this is their 4th appearance in the last 5 years. And Auburn, I mean, kind of like what we're talking about, they got the hitting. The only thing they don't have is the pitching. But on the next one, we got your number 5 seed,
Chapel Hill.
Yep, North Carolina.
Another 45-11-1, another tie. Your first team headed to Chapel Hill is VCU 37-23. A team I always like to play spoiler in NCAA March Madness. Not sure how they'll do in postseason baseball.
Yeah. And then they got the 3 seed is East Carolina with another tie too. We see a lot of ties, which kind of shocks me.
Yeah.
And then Tennessee.
Interesting. Okay. That could be interesting to keep an eye out in that Chapel Hill Regional. Tennessee 38-20 on the season. Obviously, not the Tennessee we've known in the past few years under Vitello, but still a very dangerous team that North Carolina is going to need to watch out for.
Yeah. And kind of like we were talking about the other day, is we got to, any SEC team, I truly believe the SEC is maybe not the toughest conference, but definitely a tough conference.
Well, and I think the SEC just breathes consistency because it's like you see these other teams and from other conferences like the ACC or the Big Ten. They'll have teams scattered in throughout the NCAA regional, whether it be a host site here and there or a 2 seed here and there. But in terms of people and teams consistently in it, the SEC is right there. So your 6th overall seed, the Texas Longhorns, another team. Arkansas didn't see in the regular season, but did take care of in the NCAA tournament, 40-13 on the season for them. The 4 seed headed to Austin is Holy Cross, the Crusaders.
Yeah. And they finished at 25-28, so another team that's below 500.
That's what winning the conference tournament will do for you. Teams like that get in. Tarleton State, another team Arkansas played at the beginning of the year, is headed to Austin for that regional, the Tarleton State Texans.
And then to finish it off, they got the 2 seed as UC Santa Barbara.
Always one of those dangerous teams that, you got UC Santa Barbara, Dallas Baptist, those smaller schools that are always dangerous teams that you got to watch out for.
Yep. And, I kind of want to go back to the Tarleton State game. They finished, I think it's at 38-19.
37-19.
Yeah, so, that whenever they came in to bomb, I don't think anybody in their right mind would have projected them to be like that, but it just shows that these mid-major programs that Van Horn and the coaching staff are booking, they're contenders.
I was about to say they do their research, and I think that game was actually the one we stayed an extra day and played down in Arlington.
Yep, it was. And then your 7 is Alabama.
37-19, not to mention that we swept them, but that's fine.
Oh, that's a short trip. Alabama State as a 4 seed.
Yeah. 34-21. Looks like winners of, I can't see their conference sign that they're holding, but SC Upstate, 33-28.
Now that could be a pretty good regional on the final with the 2 seed being Oklahoma State.
That Oklahoma State headed to Tuscaloosa as the 2 seed.
Now I'm not gonna don't nobody save this, but I'm gonna be a big Alabama fan for this regional because I want them to take care of Oklahoma State. But yeah, Alabama, they finished the year 37-19, 18-12 in the SEC, and this is also their 4th straight appearance in the postseason as well. So I'm starting to see a common trend here. Every SEC team has made multiple appearances in the tournament. So
yeah, like you said, let teams take care of those teams that have OSU as initials and that their colors are orange and black.
Yep. And it looks like your 8 overall seed is going to be Florida, finishing at 39-19 over the season. And then the 4 seed is going to be Rider at 33-18. Looks like they won the Mountain West. Is that what that says?
No, I think Mountain Valley Conference, MVC.
And then Troy Trojans, another good baseball team that
just a smidge over 500 there.
Yep, 32-29. And then Miami's going to make in the short trip to Gainesville, Florida as a 2 seed.
Dang, maybe that, if I'm getting any type of vibes here, it's like some of these 2 seeds aren't having to travel too far. So maybe that bodes well for Arkansas in terms of headed to Lincoln, somewhere that's not going to take too far to travel to.
Yeah. And we dodged the Austin regional. So we won't be playing Texas. So I'm starting to really like our chances of going to Lincoln now.
I was about to say, Transplant Texans got a good point here. He said winning a lower level conference tourney puts you in a closer regional. Let's see what runner up of the SEC tournament does for Arkansas. Exactly.
Yeah, and like what Chris said yesterday, scrolling on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it these days, it seems like there's no benefit to Arkansas going to the SEC tournament and winning against Auburn and going to the championship game, because we're exactly right where we were when we started the postseason play. The only thing is we might have moved up a couple notches in the RPI. We probably went from the third or fourth 2 seed to probably the first 2 seed now. So we'll see. I'm still not a big fan of the SEC tournament because I feel like we got hosed.
I was about to say, and if you've known anything, in the viewers out there too, of our buddy Hobbs, he's not a big fan of those conference tournaments either. That it's a big waste of time. Like you're exhausting yourself. Like Arkansas made a push to, made it all the way to the championship game. As Dave Van Horn mentioned, exhausted all of our pitching throughout the week to, not even like we would have been a 2 seed either way. So it's like for us not to have worked our way into a host site, like, I mean, did it do any good for Arkansas? Probably not.
Yeah, and just based off the facts alone that we had the second most quad 1 wins out of the field. And also we've had some pretty bad losses too in the midweek game. But like we said though, a lot of those midweek games, I mean, we're seeing them getting selected right now. So it's not like they were the worst of the worst. So I mean, it's just one of those things where it's a teaching point for Van Horn and the guys is, hey, it may be a midweek game and we may not be throwing our ace out there on a Wednesday night, but we need to win these games.
I was about to say you still need to win, because you look at it, those key losses that hurt you. You look at those quad 4 wins or quad 4 losses. You had 3 total quad 4 losses. You lost to UT Arlington early in the season at home, one of those non-conference games we talked about. And then you had those 2 back-to-back losses to Stetson. Those are dragging you down because those are quad 4 games. And then in your quad 3 games, you look at your other losses. Arkansas State, your 1 quad 3 loss. And Transplant Texan, I think that is the case. He said midweek quad 4 losses weighted heavier than quad 1 wins. Obviously, I mean, we even see that in NCAA basketball too, is, you can get a great win over a top quad 1 opponent, but as soon as you lose to a quad 4, that's going to tank your RPI or your rating, whatever you want to look at. So, Arkansas went 17-14 against quad 1 opponents. Like Trae said, had one of the best records against quad 1 opponents in the NCAA baseball, but you're still getting pulled down, weighted down from those 3 quad 4 games that you lost early in the season.
Well, and the way to look at it too is Arkansas is a quad 1 team, so if you are playing the quad 4 opponent, you are supposed to win that game,
right?
And so I think that's kind of where the unbalance comes from, per se, because those are games that you're expected to win. Even if Arkansas would have walked out there and like, hey, I need 9 fans to come play this game, you're still expected to win those games.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is, and that's why, like I mentioned last night, why this has been kind of in terms of Arkansas fans and just what we're used to. This was a subpar year because you don't usually see Arkansas drop midweek games like this at home early in the season. Like, you look at last year's team, we rolled through non-conference, didn't lose hardly any midweek games until you got to conference play when you started playing some tougher opponents. But we are back. Your Hattiesburg number 9 overall seed is Southern Miss. 40 win season for Southern Miss. Another one of those teams that, As a smaller school, but always really good at baseball and right up there, 44-15 on the season. UALR Little Rock is headed to the Hattiesburg Regional. They won the OVC Conference Championship, so got themselves a berth, and they are headed to the Hattiesburg Regional. If you remember, Little Rock gave LSU a tough ride last year in the LSU Baton Rouge Regional. So, watch out for UALR to try to play spoiler in the Hattiesburg Regional. Jacksonville State coming in as that 3 seed. Your 2 seed in the Hattiesburg Regional will be Virginia.
Yeah, and that's that's kind of a little surprising regional right there, because while Southern Miss is obviously your clear-cut favorite, watching Virginia play in their conference tournament, they looked like a pretty solid ball team.
Yeah, and that comes up 1 year after, losing their coach. Is their coach headed, I believe their coach left Virginia and took the job at Mississippi State, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you're right.
Yeah, Southern Miss, so, 44-15, 22-8 in the Sun Belt. I didn't realize that they were in the Sun Belt, but this is their 10th straight NCAA tournament appearance. They're right up there with Arkansas in terms of a model of consistency. They're always one of those teams that, they're always going to make a postseason appearance. Tallahassee, here we're getting into territory where Arkansas has been, projected potentially. Florida State, your 10th overall seed at 38-17. The 4 seed for the Tallahassee Regional is St. John's, 33-24 on the season for them, winning their conference championship in the Big East. And you're not wrong there, Transplant Texan. Short travel for ULR as they head to Mississippi.
That's one thing that I've noticed so far, like you were saying, is a lot of these teams, they're trying to keep close. I mean, granted, you do got some teams going across the coast and playing each other, but they're not going to be able to get everybody close.
Yeah. That 4 seed, or that 3 seed in the Tallahassee Regional is Northern Illinois, and the 2 seed, Coastal Carolina. So Arkansas will not be headed to Tallahassee. The Coastal Carolina coming off of, they had that Omaha appearance last year, back in the tournament as a 2 seed, and they will head to Tallahassee.
Yep, and Coastal Carolina, I mean, let's not act like they're not any a new face to regionals either, or super regionals or anything like that, because they did win it a few years back.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, they kind of surprised everybody when they did win it all.
Yeah, I think they had like one of those surprising runs last year.
An Ole Miss type run.
Florida State finished 38-17, 19-11 in the ACC. This is their 62nd NCAA appearance, which is tied for most. The Eugene Regional, Oregon, the 11th overall seed at 40-16 on the season.
This is the regional where a lot of people have us projected to go to, so we'll see.
It'd be like Transplant Texan said, of course, they'd send us to somewhere like this. The 4 seed in that Eugene Regional, though, will be Yale at 30-13-1.
Yep, and Transplant, if they Arkansas goes to Eugene, I'm gonna crown you as a sidekick. A short travel for Washington State, being the 3 seed overall.
30-26 on the season for Washington State.
Moment of truth. And then Oregon State, the Beavers are another short travel. That's crazy.
Wow. Okay.
So once again, you're seeing a lot of the 1 and 2 seeds being very close to each other.
Go ahead and lock me in for Arkansas headed to Lincoln. That's got to be, because it wasn't Tallahassee, it wasn't Eugene. They've got to be sending Arkansas to Lincoln. I'm going to call that right there.
Yeah, but it also wouldn't put it past the selection committee to somehow find a way to send us down to like Antarctica or something like that to play in the game too.
Fair enough. But Oregon 40-16 on the season, 20-10 in Big Ten play. This is their 6th straight NCAA appearance, or NCAA tournament appearance.
All right.
Transplant Texan said Arkansas survives being named to the Oregon Regional.
Well, now we got Texas A&M, and this could get interesting right here as well.
Yeah, Texas A&M as your 12th overall seed.
Looks like the 4th seed is going to be Lamar, finishing at 34-25.
Damian Reese's old team.
Yep, and that was a matchup I was hoping we'd get to see Arkansas play against. So, I mean, let's see. It may be a possibility. A short travel for Texas State, going 36-24. All right. And the 2 seed being USC at 43-15.
Okay, sending Southern Cal down to Texas.
I'm going to kind of call it now. That's probably going to be the regional to watch. USC is pretty talented, and then that matchup with A&M could be a very interesting game if they make it that far. But yeah, A&M, they finished at 39-14, 18-11 in the SEC, and once again, this is their 4th appearance in the last 5 years. So consistency is the key.
I was about to say, definitely no drop off for them after Schlossnagle left to go to Texas. So,
yeah, and you want to talk about a crazy turn of events. You leave an A&M school to go to your rival at UT. That's crazy. All right, here we go. Lincoln Regional with Nebraska being your host site.
Nebraska is the 13th overall seed, 42-15 on the season for them.
And this regional kicks off Friday at 4 o'clock Eastern time, and the 4th seed is going to be your South Dakota State with, again, under 500 record.
Yeah, 24-31. The Jackrabbits winning their conference tournament, getting that automatic bid that gets them into the tournament.
And your 3 seed being Arizona State at 37-19.
Okay, 37-19, Arizona State. That 2 seed, let's see, is Arkansas, the storyline of Dave returning to Lincoln, going to happen here?
Oh, Ole Miss.
Really? Okay, we're not headed to Lincoln. I wonder if they're sending us to Lawrence, Kansas then.
That's really the only place that's left.
Okay, Ole Miss as the 2 seed there, 36-21 on the season for Ole Miss. Yeah, transplant Texan. He said California to Texas, a road heavily traveled, could feel like their home field with all the California plates already in Texas. I'm really surprised that they didn't send Arkansas to Lincoln. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean Nebraska 42-15 in the year, 23-7 in the Big Ten, and again consistency. 5th appearance in the last 7 NCAA tournaments. And once again, pulling for Nebraska because they are a copy and paste version of Arkansas with Van Horn's roots down there.
The Starkville Regional, Mississippi State, again, that's one of those teams that a little surprised that they got in as a host site at 40-17 on the season. As we know, that was the first SEC series for Arkansas where they took down Mississippi State and, got the host seed there. Lipscomb is the 4th seed there at 29-24. Coming in at the 3 seed, you have
the Raging. Is that the Raging Cajuns? Yep.
Yes, the Louisiana Raging Cajuns at 39-23 on the season. Out of the Sun Belt. So that's the 3rd Sun Belt team we've seen between Southern Miss, Little Rock, and now Louisiana.
And then Cincinnati with the 2 seed overall.
The Bearcats headed to Starkville, 37-20 on the season for Cincinnati.
So what this is kind of telling me is whoever the last host site is going to be, we're going to be the 2 seed.
Yeah, because you've only got 2 more host sites left. And that's Kansas, or what is the other one that hasn't been named yet?
Let's see here. West Virginia.
Okay, so we're either headed to Lawrence, Kansas, or Morgantown, West Virginia.
Yep. Me personally, I hope it's Lawrence, Kansas, because I don't want to travel all the way to West Virginia. But let's go take care of business no matter where we go. But as you
Right.
mentioned, the Lawrence Regional has Kansas being the
The
host site.
15th. Yeah, 15th overall seed at 42-16. Big 12 tournament champions there.
And then this regional kicks off Friday at 1:00 on ESPN Plus. So right where we're used to watching the games on the ESPN.
Right. Can't catch your break there. The number 4 seed in that Kansas regional is Northeastern at 38-20 on the season. The Northeastern Huskies.
Oh boy. And your 3 seeds Missouri State.
Lovely. 34-19 on the season. Of course, they do something like this to us if it is Arkansas as your 2
Yep,
seed.
there it is. And we're going to be the 2 seed. 39-20 matching up against Missouri State. You know what?
Okay.
This selection community is funny. That's all I'm saying. 39-20. So we're going to Lawrence to face Missouri State.
Okay. They wanted storylines. They got them. Arkansas split the series this year with Missouri State, and they get to see them again in postseason baseball. Not my favorite matchup. Just the history between the two schools, high scoring matchups. We've already seen them. They've already seen us. It's going to be interesting for sure. So 42-16 record for Kansas, the second straight tournament appearance for them. But Arkansas headed to Lawrence for regional play. As we round out here, Morgantown Regional, West Virginia as the host, finishing 39-14 on the season.
And so just to kind of tell you what happened this year on your head-to-head, well, we'll finish this first. So your 4 seed is going to be
Binghamton. 31-20 Binghamton headed to Morgantown. The Binghamton Bearcats.
And Kentucky, your 3 seed at 31-21.
So Kentucky did squeak in there. Like you said, at 31-21, we knew they were right there on the bubble as one of the last 4 teams in. And the 2 seed in that Morgantown Regional will be
Wake Forest, the Fighting Deeks.
Okay. Wake Forest, 38-19. Yep. Okay. Interesting stuff there. Arkansas is headed to Lawrence for their regional. Really thought we might get that spot to head to Lincoln, but not the case. Baltimore Joe says terrible draw for the Hawgs, but they will win that regional. 4 Sun Belt teams is crazy to be seeing the tournament. But yeah, like you mentioned, Trae, taking a look at this at the head-to-heads this year, we saw Missouri State twice. As we know, that first matchup with them that was played on March 31st. Arkansas loses a game in extras 15-14, where you saw Arkansas use 7 different pitchers in this game. Steele Eves start. He pitched an inning. James DeCramer pitched. Jackson Kircher pitched. Mark Brissy pitched. Parker Coyle, Cooper Dossett, and Peyton Lee. The unfortunate scenario for the freshman where he did give up that solo shot that essentially won the game for Missouri State. This was that game where you had the big home run from Kojal, the big grand slam for him. 5 RBIs in that game for Kojal. And this kind of just speaks to that series like we were talking about between Arkansas and Missouri State. A big matchup there, high scoring. And then you jump over to April 21st when they headed to Fayetteville to play in Baum. You win that game 12-4. And You had Tate McGuire start that game, go 3 2/3. You had Colin Fisher pitch, Steele Eves pitched again, Parker Coyle pitched again, and Cooper Dossett faced them. So, depending on how Dave wants to play this, I'm going to say they're either going to see Gabe Geckel or Hunter Dietz. I would probably lean towards Hunter or Gabe Geckel myself, just because if he can do just enough for you, you can get into that 1-0 spot and then use Hunter Dietz that next game. But maybe Dave wants to feel very confident and, play or run out Hunter Dietz to, take care of business in game one and for sure guarantee you're in that winner's side of the bracket too.
Yeah, and I'm with the ideal theology of treating this as your weekend series. So whoever your one is, start game one. Obviously, that's Hunter Dietz. Game two, they're all Gabe.
Yeah.
And then I truly believe that game three, you'll see a committee of pitchers. And, Pigpen, he just left a comment. Can we confidently say the team Mizzou State played then is the same team that we are now, or isn't the same team we are now? The question of that is nobody knows.
Yeah.
Because at some point, this team looks like they're easily contender for the national championship, and then at times there's where we look like that we can't even hang with, a high school team.
So if we look at Missouri State's schedule from the point of when they played at Baum after they lost to Arkansas at Baum, they went on to get swept by Louisiana Tech. They lost the series to Jacksonville State. They swept New Mexico State, won the series versus Kennesaw State, and then in their Conference USA tournament, beat Kennesaw State, beat Dallas Baptist, and lost to Liberty, as we know is in this tournament as well. So that's an interesting thing to think about too. Just, Dallas Baptist, one of the first times that they aren't in the, postseason for the first time in a long time. I know preseason, early in the season, they were in the top 25, but, not the best season for them. But yeah, Missouri State out of the Conference USA. Interesting, the big thing here, I think I want to see Dave make sure that these guys don't let this get into their heads in terms of knowing how this series has been, historically. And then, of course, more than likely they're going to see a pitcher they haven't seen yet, whether it's Geckel or Dietz. So, I think that's one thing Arkansas's got going for it. Not sure who they're going to pitch, but I don't know. It's an intriguing matchup, to say the least.
Yeah, and so furthermore, say that Arkansas does go into Lawrence and handles business against, the Kansas Northeastern or Missouri State, we will be paired up with the winner of the Georgia Tech Regional.
Okay, so we're matched up with that Atlanta Regional. So unless something crazy happens in that Georgia Tech Regional, then we are headed to Atlanta for a super.
Yep. But how crazy would the storyline be if OU gets out of there and somehow wins that regional, and we get out and win our regional? Then we got Arkansas and OU for a super regional, and we'll probably talk about hosting then.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of what ifs. But yeah, kind of a tough draw in the bracket. I definitely would say. But I mean, it's not unbearable.
Yeah. Transpoint Texan said NCAA putting it to Arkansas. Remember when will the storyline be if Arkansas had beaten Missouri State in the regular season? They could have hosted.
Yeah, but kind of like what we're saying is it's not just Missouri State. I feel like if we would have won maybe one more of those quad 4 games, we'd probably be talking about hosting.
Right, because if you look at it, that Missouri State game was a quad 1 game. So they were a good enough team that they were quad 1. So, that is something to consider. But you look at this matchup all time. Arkansas leads the all-time series against Missouri State 59-32, with a 37-16 advantage in games that were played in Fayetteville under Dave Van Horn. The Razorbacks are 21-13 overall against the Bears, including a 13-9 mark at home. So, as you can see, this is a tight series. I remember, that series probably, it's been back in maybe around 2017, where we hosted and you had that crazy game between Arkansas and Missouri State that went till I believe it was Missouri State that went till 4 a.m. or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a regional. Let me double check that while we're thinking about that, because the history is that yes, we had it was regional play. And so looking at that regional, it was Oral Roberts and Missouri State. So, just to flash back to the past, we beat Oral Roberts in the first game 3-0. In the second game, we lost to Missouri State 5-4. Then we went and played Oral Roberts again and won 4-3. Then played Missouri State again, won 11-10, and then turned around and lost 3-2, and got knocked out of the regional. So,
yeah, and kind of like what Pigman said here, I feel like we could spin this into a positive direction. Would we rather face a team that we already know versus the unknown? That is a fair way of looking at it. But to me, it's the hate. No, we can't say hatred. The severe dislike of Missouri State. They. Yeah, I just want to go in there and take care of business, and beat Missouri State. And I think it's just even tougher that that's our first game too.
Yeah. And it's interesting, too, that just the storyline between these two schools. I don't know if I would call it necessarily a rivalry. I mean, even though they do play every year, and it's usually a home and home midweek type of situation. But, just like we talked about, Arkansas played Missouri State in that regional back in the 2016-17 season. And, they got the better of us, and we've seen it over the past few years. But it's going to be another chapter for that that series, and between the two schools.
Yeah, and let's not act like too that the last few times that they played, it's been, well, I say that last time we absolutely took them to the woodshed, but most of the times when we play Missouri State, it is a damn good game. So, it could be okay. Yeah, we're getting a good game, but I'd much rather the easier route. I'd much rather take it to where we can, run 13, 14 runs on them and call it day.
Yeah, I was about to say that's what I want to see. Just go out to take care of business. If Dave wants to, come out there and just get things done, take care of business, come out there, throw out Hunter Dietz game 1, take care of business, get in the winner's bracket, and then from there win 2 more games. But Trent's playing Texas said, remembering when the schedule was released and we knew we wouldn't face Tennessee or LSU, thought it would be an easier season and probably a shoe in to return to Omaha, but it has not played out that way. Yeah, I mean, Arkansas gets an easy schedule this year. I say easy in air quotes because, as we know, that any team in the SEC can beat you in any given weekend. But in terms of not getting Tennessee and LSU, kind of almost at that point would have wished we would have had to play those teams. As bad a season LSU's had, as Tennessee hasn't had a bad season, but them being down as well, almost would have rather swapped those games out for some of the series Arkansas had to face. But at the end of the day, it's postseason baseball time, trying to clear the slate, and this team is playing well right now. The bats are getting hot. We've seen to get some pitching figured out, some guys stepped up. So, maybe we can go into this regional, take care of business, and then, hey, maybe we hope Georgia Tech can get upset by somebody. That way we host Supers.
Yeah, that'd be very nice. Because like what we mentioned, there is no season like postseason at Bomb. Let's just take care of business. I mean, that's all ultimately what it comes down
to. Yeah, and that's the thing too, that again, it's weird to not have postseason at Bomb, but at the end of the day, Arkansas is still in postseason, which is important. And like you said, that first game is at 1:00 on Friday. So, Arkansas will be after that. Arkansas's game will be 6 Eastern time, so 5:00 on ESPN Plus on Friday. Another storyline for that they mentioned too. We talked about the series between Arkansas and Missouri State. It's another chance for Zach Stewart to go up against his old team. We were talking about Damon Ruiz against Lamar and his old team. Well, Zach Stewart, because if you look back at the 2 series games, Zach Stewart in game 1 went 2 for 5 with a run scored and an RBI and walked once and 1 strikeout. In game 2 in Fayetteville, he went 1 for 3 with a run scored and a walk and a strikeout. So, decent game so far against his old team. Hopefully he can continue that, maybe get the opportunity for a long ball, because, we've seen in these 2 games home runs from Kojal, Helfrich, Souza, Turner, as well as Pompey. You had Kojal and Helfrich both home run in both games against Missouri State. So, maybe Stewart can add a home run to that mix as well.
Yeah, and how crazy would the storyline be that we see a walk-off home run from Zach Stewart to send Missouri State to the losers bracket and us to the winners bracket. So,
yeah. The only thing with that means it's a close game, and I'd rather not be a close game.
Yeah, that's fair point too. But if it's all about storylines, there ain't no better storyline than that right there.
Yeah. What a crazy thing. I didn't realize this real quick, just looking at it on this selection show. UCLA won its first Big Ten tournament due to a walk-off hit by pitch. Yeah. Imagine if you're that opposing pitcher, you just lost the Big Ten championship because you hit a guy.
So that happened to Arkansas a few years ago, if I remember right, where it wasn't a hit by pitch, but it was a walk-off walk. That sent us to the Omaha, I believe. I can't remember if it was somewhere in Texas. That's all I remember. I don't exactly remember who we were playing, but.
Exactly, transplanted. I do not want a close game between Arkansas and Missouri State. Let's knock them to the losers bracket, but I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them back in the winner's side. Hypothetically, all right, Arkansas wins. More than likely, they're playing Kansas in the next round. Northeastern and Missouri State play. I'm going to say Missouri State beats Northeastern, and then we'll take on the loser of Arkansas and Kansas. Maybe we can just leave it up to Kansas to eliminate Missouri State.
Yeah, and, to kind of further what you're saying is if we go out there and we start Hunter Dietz game 1, if it's a close game, that means that Hunter Dietz is getting hit around. Unless if it's a 0-0 ball game, then I'm okay with that. But this 10 to 10 ball games or whatnot, these high scoring games that Arkansas has been forced to play in at times, if we got Hunter Dietz on the mound and that's happening, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I agree. So, you look at it, like you said, the Georgia Tech Regional is who we match up with if we make it out of regional play. That regional, again, just as a reminder, is Georgia Tech, the 1 seed, Oklahoma's the 2 seed, the Citadel as the 3 seed, and Illinois, Chicago as the 4 seed. So more than likely, you're going to see Georgia Tech and Oklahoma battling for a shot to go to Supers. Now, out of the two, I would have to look. I feel like it's safe to say Arkansas would be the higher 2 seed, but overall, so more than likely you'll have a Fayetteville Super if Oklahoma somehow beat Georgia Tech. And not taking anything away from Georgia Tech, they've had a great season. They put up some crazy numbers, but I'm interested to see what they do when they go up against like SEC level pitching. Nothing against the ACC. It's great. They've had some, they put teams in the tournament. They're right up there. Not going to say they're just as good as the SEC, but they're right up there in terms of, consistency in college baseball. It's the SEC and the ACC. You see the most teams there. I mean, you're looking at this side of the bracket, and you've got 3 teams right there with Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, and Georgia Tech all in this regional as well. So,
yeah. And I watched their conference championship game just because I was waiting for the Arkansas game to come on. They got some bats. Their catcher is projected to be the first catcher taken in the MLB draft this year. He can hit with power. He can run. And so that would have been that's going to be an interesting matchup. Is if we end up pairing with them in the super regionals, you get number 1 catcher versus number 2 catcher.
Yeah. Transplant Texan asks here, he says, all right, after Dietz for game 1, who gets the call for game 2 in an Arkansas-Kansas matchup? I've got to go with it. I mean, I feel like just off of what we've seen this year, and if you, like, to your point, if we treat this like a regular season series, it's going to be Gabe Gackel. I mean, like, those are your 1 and 2 guys clear cut. I mean, after that's where it gets a little sketchy. So game 3 would be one of those where, all right, if it's a good situation, say, I don't know, it'd be tough to throw on 1 day's rest. I was going to say, if it was a key situation and you needed him, you wouldn't throw Hunter Dietz again, even if he had a lower pitch count, and you say he gets through 6 or 7 innings at like 80 something pitches. It's still going to be tough for me to see Dave bringing back again, unless it's just a quick 1 inning appearance where he wants him to come in and just lock it down. But I think that's where you'll see a guy like maybe McElvain be key down the stretch. I could see him pitching multiple games. You bring McElvain in for a 1 to 2 inning appearance and he has a low pitch count. I could see him having multiple appearances because he's our clear cut closer there. Maybe game 3, I don't know. We've seen Tate McGuire get some starts. We've seen maybe, it seems like, the quote unquote circle of trust for Dave Van Horn. We've seen James DeCramer get some more innings as of late. He's a guy. Colin Fisher is really hit or miss. He makes me nervous just because he looked good non-conference play, but then you throw him into the fire of the SEC and, really early on he got beat up and, hit on a lot. You've got a guy like Cole Gibbler. We've seen him get some starts. Dave's been getting him ready for postseason play, letting him battle through some moments. So Cole Gibbler's right up there, the lefty. I don't know. I think you get to that point where it's game 3. It's going to be a piece it together situation where you'll probably see multiple guys for 2 to 3 innings at a time, if not less. Where I could see, all right, game 1's Dietz, game 2's Geckel. After that, maybe you start Gibbler. He goes 3, 4, maybe. Then you piece in maybe a Colin Fisher. Don't know if you go back-to-back lefties, though. But I agree, Transplant Texan. This is what I've been kind of preaching and harping on this entire, past few weeks. Arkansas has to win and avoid the loser's bracket. I agree with you. I don't think we have the arms. Maybe guys step up, but I'm not confident in our guys after about, 3. You look at, if you go after Dietz, Geckel, and maybe a Gibbler, McGuire, like, I don't feel confident that we have the depth to get us out of a loser's bracket scenario.
Yeah, and I truly believe that we're going to see a healthy dosage of McIlvain and DeCramer over the next few weeks, because I mean, you go back to look at whenever we were in even SEC play, who did Dave call on to whenever we needed to get out of a tight situation? Minus the Georgia game, because that was just a bad situation altogether. But it was McIlvain and DeCramer. So kind of like what you were saying, if he were to start, you say like somebody like Cole Gibbler on game 3, if Cole can go out there and get 3 to 4 innings, and then we can bring in DeCramer and he can get another 2 innings or whatnot, maybe 3 innings, that right there would set up perfectly for McIlvain to come in and slam the door shut.
Yeah. And I feel like it's tough to, like, you can't necessarily just throw out the Georgia game, but you look at the game yesterday and who pitched. You pitched Tate McGuire for an inning, 4 hits, 5 runs scored, got beat up early. Parker Coyle, he's another key arm that has made starts before. Steele Eves has made starts before. Cole Gibbler, he pitched a good, clean 2 innings yesterday in relief, allowed 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, only pitched 32 pitches. Jackson Kircher, a guy that is very intriguing. We thought he might come in and be a key piece of this rotation for Arkansas after transferring in from Oklahoma, a Little Rock kid, Arkansas native, has just really struggled to find his groove this year. He pitched 2/3 of an inning yesterday and allowed 3 runs. And then Colin Fisher, a third of an inning yesterday, just closed out the final inning. But we saw Colin Fisher against Auburn as well. He pitched an inning and 2/3, allowed 3 hits, no runs, 2 strikeouts on 28 pitches. James DeCramer against Auburn, 1 inning of relief, allowed a walk and 1 strikeout on 14 pitches. And then Cooper Dossett started that game. That's another name to throw out there. So, Arkansas has arms. Some of these arms I'm just not the most confident in, because you just haven't seen a ton in terms of body of work. Like, James DeCramer, we saw him early in non-conference play, but then, he really struggled there in some games. And then, because if you just look at his outings throughout the season, he is, a little background. So he is the Oregon State transfer. His stats on the season. So this season for Arkansas, he's had 12 appearances. He started 3 games on the season this year. So he came out, pitched against Texas Tech in a game that we won. He did not start that game. He pitched 2 innings, allowed 1 hit. His next appearance was Arkansas State, where we won 1-0. He went 3 2/3 in that game. He started, allowed 1 hit. Then against Oral Roberts, where we won 10-2, he started that game as well. Pitched 2 innings, allowed 5 hits, 1 run, that run being earned. And then here's where, he started to struggle a little bit. That first outing, that first loss we had against Stetson, 4-6, he started that game, didn't make it through the first inning, allowed 4 hits, 4 runs, and 1 home run.
Yeah. It's been a tough year for our pitchers, for sure. And at times they haven't had any help at all with our fielding. Not saying any particular names, but usually they play second base. And I mean, it's just one of those things that when this team has things clicking, they're a pretty damn good team.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, after that, that Stetson game was DeCramer's last start of the season. Everything else has been in relief. And, you look through their relief innings. He came in relief against one of those losses against Florida. 1 hit, no runs. One thing to note, that loss against Missouri State, he came in for 2/3 of an inning of relief, allowed 3 hits, 2 runs, both those runs being earned. So he's familiar with Missouri State.
The thing with DeCramer too is, I'm sorry, not DeCramer, Kircher, is I noticed the other day whenever he was pitching, all he could really have control over was his fastball. I mean, yeah, sure, the fastball's livid and all the other stuff at 97, 98 miles per hour, which is pretty solid. But he was struggling to throw his off-speed stuff. So if I'm Missouri State or whoever we're playing against, if he's in the mound, I'm sitting fastball.
Yep. Well, and if you look at Kircher, his outings, he's had 11 appearances on the season. All those appearances have been in relief. He hasn't started it all this season. But in all those appearances across the season, his longest outing is 3 innings, and that was against Northern Colorado. Every other game that we've had, that it's been the only game that he's been really good in is some of these non-conference games. You get into some conference play, that the game that we lost against South Carolina, he was in the game for a third of an inning, 3 hits, 3 runs, but 2 of those being earned with a home run. And then you look at the series loss, or not the series loss, but the game we lost in the Ole Miss series 11-4. He pitched for an inning, allowed 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned runs. So, he seemed to really struggle against that higher level of competition. Coming out of Oklahoma last year, like we said, he's the Little Rock kid. He made 13 appearances for Oklahoma last year, all in relief, so didn't really start at Oklahoma as a true freshman. He posted a 5.68 ERA with 17 strikeouts and 12 2/3 innings of work. He allowed 11 runs on 13 hits and 5 walks. So, this is very similar to the season he had last year for Oklahoma. So, I don't know if he's one of those guys that does Dave keep around after this year. Not trying to get too far off the topic that we're on, but is he one of those guys that Dave essentially be like, hey, sorry, you're not necessarily cutting it, so time to move on? Or does he kind of work with him, let Matt Hobbs do his Matt Hobbs thing? Because as we know, we've seen him transform pitchers that have struggled a little bit into, really good guys over time. So does another offseason give Kircher the opportunity to work with Matt Hobbs and really develop? I mean, we've seen that with guys like, obviously the example everybody wants to use is Kevin Kopps. Wasn't really, just an absolute stud on the mound when he came in. He came in and then was an okay pitcher, and then obviously got hurt, had to have Tommy John, came back, worked with Matt Hobbs intensely, and then put together his amazing Golden Spikes. He's not saying that's what Kircher could do, but if he sticks around, works with Matt Hobbs, then maybe that's something that he could come in and potentially be a starter next year.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like you just said, is Matt Hobbs. He's pretty good at getting guys built up to where they could be usable and whatnot. So I don't see why he won't be able to save anybody else. I'm not going to say save because they're all good pitchers, else they wouldn't be on an SEC roster. But I just really think that this is one of those years where things have gone right and some things haven't. And unfortunately, I feel like this is one of those years where things just haven't necessarily gone in our favor. But I mean, how blessed are we to be having this conversation and be going into as a 2 season, potentially we were talking about hosting. I mean, if this is a down year for Arkansas baseball, there's a lot of teams, a lot of places where this would be their best year. So, it's just one of those things where we, move on and focus at the task in hand. And right now, that's going to Lawrence and taking care of business.
Yeah. One thing I want to point out, just making puns here. Trae, can you tell me offhand what is the Lawrence or Kansas's ballpark name?
No, I was trying to find that, and then I got sidetracked, and I completely forgot.
So, depending on how you pronounce it, it's Hoglund Ballpark. Hoglund.
Oh, there's foreshadowing right there.
it's probably Hoagland Park, but we'll take it has Hog in it. So
Yep. And Transplant just put a good comment on there. This is 2 years in a row with a to be determined third starter.
yeah,
you're right, 100% right. But I feel like a lot of that is because we go into the season. So, for example, this season alone, everybody thought for sure Wiggins was going to be our solid day one starter. And then we ran in. He had Tommy John surgery, so that kind of moved everybody up one notch.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with that theory is we didn't necessarily know who our fourth starter would be. Per se, your go-to starter on those midweek games, and that's why we're in the situation that we're in now. And I think Van Horn sees that there's a common problem, and he might, from what I've seen so far, he's already tried to address it by recruiting heavy on the pitchers for this coming up season.
Yeah. And I'll be interested to see what he does in the transfer portal. Obviously last year, he hit well in the portal, bringing a guy like Zach Root, who was fantastic for Arkansas last year as a starter. You look at last year's starters, you had obviously Zach Root. Gackle kind of was in and out of the lineup in terms of starting. But then you look at Gage Wood obviously was a phenomenal talent that, was developed last year. And then also Aiden Jimenez, who came in, from Oregon State as well. And, turned out to be really great for Arkansas, the Ohio State transfer, Landon Bottleshees. So Dave can go out and get you some transfers in the transfer portal in terms of pitching. They've got that kind of – Dave knows what he's doing, and I think part of it too is going to be DJ Baxendale doing heavy recruiting right now, because that's what, like as we mentioned, Arkansas has already had a player in the transfer portal, and I guarantee you we're not going to be the only one that has guys already entering the portal, even though our season's not over. So, I'm sure DJ Baxendale and some of that sports staff, even you were talking about it yesterday, they're already, scouting and, starting to look at kids. And so, that's kind of like the dual job that, DJ Baxendale kind of helped relieve Dave of is, Dave's focused on this team and postseason play, and you've got to have somebody like a DJ Baxendale that can go all in and be, heavily recruiting for the transfer portal.
Yeah, and what better person to be your spokesperson? Somebody who's wore the uniform, somebody who's taken us to Omaha. So it's Van Horn has his staff set up now to where all he's got to do is coach.
Right.
As far as recruiting and all that stuff goes, I mean, yeah, sure, he's going to have an input on it, but he trusts his guys enough to tell them to go visit recruits and home visits and all that other stuff, and to get them on the hill. And like I said, DJ Baxendale has worn the uniform. He's played on bomb. So he knows what it takes and what the expectations are of not only Van Horn, but the fans as well.
Yeah. And I mean, that's going to be key. So, somebody mentioned it yesterday is, we did receive the commitment from McIlvain mid, Omaha last year. So, that's something to consider. But, just for all those Arkansas fans out there curious, from Fayetteville to Hoagland Ballpark in Lawrence, Kansas is a 3-hour, 53-minute drive.
Yeah, and everybody knows that Razorback fans travel pretty well.
Exactly.
So I feel like the 3.5-hour, 4-hour trip is going to be pretty feasible and doable. And we'll see. I'm really looking forward to see what the atmosphere is going to be like for that Missouri State game.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see. But with that, we'll kind of get ready to wrap up here. That was our live selection show, reaction show. Arkansas heads to the Lawrence, Kansas. We'll take on Missouri State in the opening round. And then, we'll go from there. So, Arkansas will be playing at 5 o'clock on Friday, taking on Missouri State. Kansas will be playing um, earlier in that day at 1. So we know where we're headed. Now it's just time to lock in and get ready to take care of business. Like Transplant Texan said, this is a drivable regional. More money for tickets, exactly. So hop in the car, gas money, and then buy your tickets. So we'll do a more in depth. I mean, I say more in depth preview. We've already seen Missouri State twice. There's not a ton more to preview, but we'll do a little bit more digging on Kansas and the other teams in this regional and kind of talk about that on Wednesday, as well as talk about our first round matchup for Arkansas softball as they are punched their tickets to Oklahoma City and will take on Nebraska. So we will dive more into all that on Wednesday for our regular show this week. But we appreciate everybody tuning in for this selection show special. Like Transplant Texan said, like and share. We appreciate you being with us, Transplant Texan, one of the most faithful fans here at Hawgs on the Hill. But with that, we'll get ready to wrap up. Yes, good point by Transplant Texan. He said Wednesday we should know about Richmond and Leak by then. Exactly, because Wednesday is the day. Hopefully we find out before Wednesday, but who knows? Maybe it's all the theatrics and they want to wait till the last minute. But we'll have some up-to-date basketball, and we'll kind of know what this roster is shaping up to look like on Wednesday, along with some other announcements that have come out over the weekend and that we expect to come out between now and then. So with that, we'll get ready to wrap up here. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube, as that's where our most up-to-date content is at. With that, Trae, anything else before we get out of here?
No, just once again, thank you to all the viewers, especially the men and women who are in the military, first responders, nurses, all that good stuff. Thank you guys for everything y'all do. And Zane or Caleb, I'll let you pull a Zane today.
There you go. As Zane likes to say, woo pig always. And, with that, everybody enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day. Have a safe holiday, whatever you're doing. And we'll be back at it on Wednesday for our regularly scheduled episode of Hawgs on the Hill. So until then, we'll see you next time. Everybody have a safe and enjoyable Memorial Day, and we're out.